Have you ever watched the Netflix's series Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, which tells the terrifying true story of serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer? Trust me, that's not an easy thing to swallow. Dahmer raped, murdered and dismembered at least 17 men and boys in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, between 1978 and 1991, shocking the world with the extent of his crimes, including cannibalism and necrophilia. Excited enough? Let me tell you the whole story of the guy. Jeffrey Dahmer was born in Milwaukee on May 21, 1960, to parents Lionel and Joyce Dahmer. He was a cheerful child until age 4, when a difficult recovery from surgery seemed to change him. After his younger brother was born and the family moved often, Dahmer became withdrawn. From a young age, Dahmer had a keen interest in animal bones and learned how to preserve them. He collected large insects and small animal skulls preserved in formaldehyde jars. In his early teens, he became disengaged, tense, and isolated from peers. Dahmer claimed his urges towards necrophilia and murder began around age 14. Dahmer started drinking at 14. By age 18, he had committed his first murder, dropped out of college after one term, and enlisted in the army at his father's insistence. He was posted to Germany in late 1978. In early 1981, Dahmer's drinking led to his discharge from the army. While in Germany, authorities investigated possible connections to local murders, but he's not believed to have committed any during his service. After returning to Ohio, Dahmer's father sent him to live with his grandmother following an arrest for disorderly conduct. Despite this, Dahmer's alcohol issues persisted, resulting in a 1-year probationary sentence. Between 1978 and 1991, Dahmer murdered 17 men. He targeted marginalized individuals to avoid detection, luring them with promises of money or sex before strangling them at his home. He engaged in necrophilia, keeping body parts and photos as trophies. His infamous aliases, the Milwaukee Cannibal and the Milwaukee Monster, reflect the brutality of his crimes. Dahmer's first murder occurred in June 1978 when he killed hitchhiker Stephen Hicks after luring him to his parents' house. Dahmer struck Hicks with a barbell, then dismembered and buried him. His second victim, Stephen Twomey, died accidentally in a hotel room in September 1987. Dahmer dismembered and masturbated on the corpse before disposing of the remains and kept Twomey's head as a souvenir. After killing Stephen Twomey, Dahmer admitted that his obsession with killing intensified, and he no longer tried to resist it. He murdered 2 more victims at his grandmother's house before she made him move out in 1988. Although she was unaware of his crimes, she grew tired of his drinking, bringing young men to her home, and the strange smells emanating from her basement. In September 1989, about a year after moving into his new apartment, Dahmer lured a 13-year-old Laotian boy to his house, claiming he wanted to take nude photos of him. This resulted in charges of sexual exploitation and second-degree sexual assault for Dahmer. He pleaded guilty, claiming that the boy had appeared much older. While awaiting sentencing for his sexual assault case, in March 1989, he continued to lured, drugged, strangled, sodomized, photographed, dismembered, and disposed of Anthony Sears, an aspiring model. Dahmer found Sears particularly attractive and later said he did not want to lose him, and so Sears became the first victim from whom Dahmer kept preserved body parts for a long period of time, mummifying his head and genitals. During his trial for child molestation in May 1989, Dahmer presented himself as remorseful and convinced the judge that he needed treatment, not imprisonment. As a result, he received a 1-year prison sentence with day release, allowing him to work during the day and return to prison at night, along with a 5-year probationary sentence. Later, Lionel Dahmer revealed that he had requested psychological help for his son before his release. Despite this, Dahmer was granted early parole after serving only 10 months of his sentence. He briefly stayed with his grandmother after his release, during which time he did not commit any further crimes, before moving back into his own apartment. Over the next 2 years, Dahmer killed 12 more people. His first victim during this time was a prostitute named Raymond Smith, whom Dahmer lured to his apartment for sex, drugged with sleeping tablets, and then strangled. Dahmer took suggestive photos of the body before dismembering it. With his next victim, Edward Smith, Dahmer accidentally destroyed the skull while attempting to preserve it in the oven, causing it to explode. Dahmer expressed regret to police, feeling that he had wasted the body. As Dahmer continued his killings, he developed disturbing rituals, including experimenting with chemical disposal methods and consuming the flesh of his victims. He also attempted crude lobotomies, such as drilling into the skull of Errol Lindsay while he was alive and injecting him with muriatic acid in an attempt to render him submissive. When Lindsay woke during the procedure and asked about a headache, Dahmer strangled him. On May 27, 1991, Dahmer's neighbor Sandra Smith reported that an Asian boy was running naked in the street. The boy was 14 years old and was, unbeknownst to Dahmer, the younger brother of the Laotian teen Dahmer had molested 3 years earlier. The police escorted Dahmer and the boy home. They took only a cursory look around before leaving. According to Dahmer, an officer peeked his head around in the bedroom but didn't really take a good look, and then left after telling Dahmer to take care of the boy. Once they left the scene, Dahmer injected hydrochloric acid into the boy's brain, killing him. Had the police conducted even a basic search, they would have found the body of Dahmer's 12th victim, Tony Hughes. Dahmer killed 4 more men before he was finally arrested. One of his last victims was Oliver Lacey, 24, whose body Dahmer had sex with before dismembering the corpse. He kept Lacey's head and heart in his refrigerator, and his skeleton in a freezer. Dahmer's killing spree ended when he was arrested on July 22, 1991. The body parts found in Dahmer's refrigerator and Polaroid photographs of his victims became inextricably associated with his notorious killing spree. Dahmer's trial began in January 1992. Initially, Dahmer pleaded not guilty to the charges despite confessing during police interrogation. Later, he changed his plea to guilty by reason of insanity. His defense presented gruesome details of his behavior as evidence of insanity. However, the jury accepted the prosecution's argument that Dahmer was aware his acts were evil and chose to commit them regardless. Eventually, the jury found him guilty and sane on all counts. He received 15 consecutive life sentences, with an additional term added later. Dahmer adapted well to prison life at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Wisconsin, initially isolated from other inmates but eventually integrated. He embraced religion through books and photos sent by his father and was baptized by a local pastor with prison permission. Dahmer was killed on November 28, 1994, by his fellow prison inmate Christopher Scarver. Dahmer was assigned to work with 2 other convicted murderers, Scarver and Jesse Anderson. After they had been left alone to complete their tasks, guards returned to find that Scarver had brutally beaten both men with a metal bar from the prison weight room. Scarver, who was believed to be schizophrenic, said, "God told me to do it." Scarver alleged that he was disturbed not only by Dahmer's crimes but by a habit Dahmer had developed of fashioning severed limbs from prison food to antagonize other inmates. Scarver said that he confronted Dahmer about his crimes before beating the 2 men to death. He also claimed that prison guards allowed the murders to happen by leaving them alone. What a terrifying story, huh? Jeffrey Dahmer's heinous crimes and the subsequent trial revealed disturbing truths about human capacity for evil and the failures of the criminal justice system. What we can all learn from the case is make sure to keep up with the mental health of ourselves and our loved ones. And I'll see you in another video. Bye.